Edmund leapt ashore, for the water was deep up to the rocks, and the Dragon had been moored alongside for the convenience of taking on board the wood for the repairs. Although those on board the Dragon guessed it not, many eyes were watching them. A small fishing village lay at the edge of the fjord, a mile or two beyond the inlet in which the ship was moored. Hidden as they were among the trees, the huts had not been noticed by the Saxons, but the strange ship had been seen by some of those in the village, and the fishermen at once pronounced that whencesoever she might have come she was assuredly no Northman's ship. Messengers had immediately been sent to the villages among the hills. These were widely scattered, and it was not until the day after the ship's arrival that a force was collected which was deemed sufficient to attack it. Already, as Edmund leapt ashore, the Norsemen were making their way quietly through the forest towards the Dragon. Edmund had advanced but a few hundred yards up the hillside when a large party of Norsemen sprang up upon him. 2 Saxon arrows flew true to their marks, then the Danes rushed upon them. So far no words had been spoken, but Edmund placed to his lips the whistle with which he gave orders on board the ship, and blew a long shrill note, and then shouted at the top of his voice, "The Danes! The Danes! Push off!" The instant afterwards he was attacked. He and his men fought bravely, but in a few seconds the latter were cut down, and Edmund was levelled to the ground by a tremendous blow from a club. A minute later the din of battle rose by the water's side. Edmund's whistle and shout had been heard, and the Saxons on shore sprang on board and seized their spears and bows, just as the Danes poured down through the trees. For a time the Saxons defended the ship against the desperate attempt of the Danes to gain footing on her, but seeing the number of its assailants, and being certain that Edmund was killed or captured, Egbert ordered the ropes to be cut, and the Dragon was thrust away from the rocks. The oars were then got out, and she rowed out of bowshot from the shore. Then Egbert held a consultation with the leading men among the Saxons. All on board were filled with grief at the loss of their young leader, but they felt that nothing could be done for him, and it would be but courting danger to remain longer in the fjord. Since so large a force had been collected in the forest, news might have been sent to the ports, and at any moment they might see a fleet of the Northmen's galleys barring their retreat. Therefore, with bitter grief and lamentation, the Dragon's sails were hoisted, and she made her way to sea. "My only consolation is," Egbert said, "that if the brave lad is not killed at once, he may yet find his way back to England. He is ready of wit and full of invention, that if any can possibly extricate themselves from such a strait, it is assuredly he. But I fear that he fell in the first onslaught. Brave lad, even in the moment of his own peril he thought first of us. Had it not been for his timely warning we should have been taken unawares, and many must have been killed, even if the Dragon herself escaped capture." The storm had entirely abated, and the waters sparkled brightly in the cold January sun as the Dragon sailed out between the two headlands into the sea. Very different were the feelings of the crew to those which had animated them when 2 days before they had passed through the Channel. Then every heart beat with joy and thankfulness. Now the deepest depression and grief reigned on board. Edmund was adored by his followers. His kindness as their ealdorman, his skill and bravery as a leader, his cheerfulness and brightness under every danger and peril, had immensely endeared him to their hearts, and each man felt that he had sustained an irretrievable loss, and that with their chief the spirit which had animated the Dragon and directed their enterprises was gone. Egbert was a valiant warrior, and was an admirable second to an enterprising leader, but he was altogether without initiative, and, except when excited by danger, was dull and silent. Although all esteemed him and honoured him for his strength and bravery, they felt that he would be but a poor substitute indeed for the leader they had lost. End of Chapter 8. Recording by Mike Harris.